Hello everybody, my name is Joelle Simone Anthony. I'm also known as the Grave Woman, and welcome to my channel. In today's installment of Death at the Movies, we will be discussing how grief and loss are expressed in the movie Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse. I'm going to go ahead and forewarn you that I will be discussing specific details from the movie, and though I'm going to try not to give away too much of what was in the film, I will be giving some spoiler alerts. So if you haven't seen the movie already, I would suggest that you watch the movie first and then come back and watch this video. The first character that we're going to be discussing is Miles Morales, who is the new Spider-Man. So Miles Morales is the main character of this movie and becomes the new Spider-Man in his universe. Miles Morales is a teenage kid who's attending a new school where he's having a hard time making meaningful connections with his peers. He also, from what we see in the movie, has a strained relationship with his father. And while spending time with his uncle, he is bitten by a radioactive spider. And as we all know from the story of Spider-Man, he becomes activated with Spidey sense and is given these new gifts and superpowers. Miles witnesses the death of Spider-Man, the original Spider-Man in his universe. And with his last breath, the original Spider-Man makes Miles promise that he will go through the journey of taking the corrective actions to stop Kingpin. Now, in his quest to avenge Spider-Man and to save his family, Miles is introduced to other Spider-Men and Spider-Women from other dimensions. Whose worlds collide at the hands and cosmic manipulation of the character Kingpin. Kingpin is the evil and extremely rich villain of this film. Now, Kingpin, even though he's a bad character, at one point in time had a wife and son. Kingpin's wife and son actually walk in on him strangling Spider-Man in a flashback that we see in the film. When his wife and his son see this, his wife takes his son and leaves, and unfortunately they're killed in a traffic accident trying to escape the rage of Kingpin. The death of his wife and son basically overwhelmed Kingpin with rage and desire to bring them back. And because of this, it leads him to enlist Dr. Octopus, who was another villain from the film, to build and operate a particle accelerator that can be activated in order to bring them back from the dead. To me, this really represented Kingpin's inability to accept the loss of his wife and his son, and even more so, because he's still vengeful and evil in the film, it lets me know that he hasn't taken time to reflect on what his role was in causing their death. On the other hand, maybe Kingpin is dealing with some unresolved grief because he understands that, you know, his actions led to the death of his wife and son, and it's causing him to have a lot of guilt. So it could be looked at either one of those two ways, in my opinion. Now, another character from the movie that was very interesting to me was Spider-Man's Uncle Aaron. Spider-Man's uncle, unbeknownst to him, actually was working for Kingpin as the villain Ultimate Prowler. And his uncle, unfortunately, was killed by Kingpin when he learned that Spider-Man was actually Miles. There's a fight scene that takes place where Prowler is actually strangling Spider-Man, who he does not know is his nephew. Spider-Man takes off his mask, and Prowler, aka Uncle Aaron, learns that this is his nephew, someone that he's extremely close to and who Spider-Man looks up to tremendously. Spider-Man was actually with Uncle Aaron when he was bit by the spider, so it was just really interesting to see and learn that Uncle Aaron was, you know, basically the villain the whole time. So this to me represented the things that we learn about our loved ones as they, when they pass away. Many times and in many cases, we learn things about our loved ones that we did not know and honestly would not want to know if they were living. And in addition to mourning the loss of their life, it causes us, when we learn these secrets and things about people that we didn't know, to actually mourn the perception of who we thought they were, which could be even more painful. An example of that that I've seen personally is when a loving father and husband passes away, and the family, the wife and the children, at the time of the funeral or shortly after, find out about outside children and outside women. It can be devastating, especially when you're thinking of someone who's just passed away. You can't be angry. Well, you can be angry with them, but what good is that anger going to do? Things like that and situations like that further complicate the grieving process, and they just hit us like a ton of bricks sometimes. I know in my personal life, I found out shortly after my grandfather passed away that I had two uncles that I wasn't aware of. So not only was I mourning my grandfather, I was also having to deal with the fact and learn that I had a whole another side of my family that I was not aware of. It wasn't a family secret, so to speak. It was just something that I just did not know. A couple things about the movie that really spoke to me and relate to the topic at hand is that all of the spider men and women from the multiple dimensions actually had one thing in common. And that was that they had all lost someone that they loved very dearly. One of the characters, the Spider Woman, had lost her best friend and couldn't save them. So she just decided that she was not going to do friends anymore. And she made that very clear to the group when she met them. Another character had lost, the older version of Spider-Man had lost Aunt May. And that had really taken a toll on him. Not only losing his aunt, but also losing his wife to divorce had taken a toll on him and basically caused him to go into a depression. And of course, Miles, as we saw, lost his uncle Aaron, aka the Ultimate Prowler, and really felt as if it was his fault, because if he were not trying to save him, Kingpin may have not killed him. It reminded me a lot of a grief support group. And the reason I say that is because they were the characters in the movie, the Spider-Men and the Spider-Women from the multiple universes and dimension, were stronger together. But at the same time, in the film, we saw that those who had collided with Miles's universe were losing their power, and being outside of their dimension was atomically destructing them. And it was just interesting to see them all fight to get back to their original universes. And to me, that spoke to the part of ourselves that we lose when we experience a loss. You just don't wake up the next day and you're able to function and go through the world as if you haven't experienced a loss. And having a support group there and a group of people who have been through similar experiences, if not the same experiences, in a lot of cases just helps us to better maneuver through and work through the grief that we may be experiencing while rebuilding our lives and allowing us to re-enter the world as stronger and better people. My name is Joelle Simone Anthony. If you'd like to learn more, please visit my website, www.thegravewoman.com. As always, live life, love hard, and I'll talk to you next time.